So back when I was a young boy, I grew up in rural Georgia, and I was a raging animal lover. I mean, it didn't matter what it was, dogs, cats, lizards, snakes. I loved them all. And so I was the kid who went off one day and pulled a puppy out of a box that said free to good home and took it back to my house and convinced my parents that it was a stray that had followed me. It's bad, right? But, that's just, I was a huge animal lover, and my older brother is 6.5 years older than I am, and he went into law enforcement at 20 years old. And I knew that because I looked up to him so much, that's something that I also wanted to do. So when you put those two things together, this love of animals and this desire to be in law enforcement, one of my goals was always to work K9. And it just seems like once I became a police officer, I graduated the academy in 2002, and I worked patrol, I worked undercover narcotics, I was, in supervision and leadership. I was just never quite in the right place at the right time to be a dog handler. And it got to a point that I just didn't believe it was in the cards for me. And then we did start that program, K9 for a Day, and I said, this is probably the closest I'll ever get, but I'm able to work with animals, I'm able to do police work, and it's kind of the best of both worlds, And then Rocky came along. And, when I say it's kind of an unusual start for us, he's not trained like most police canines to sniff out drugs, bad guys, bombs, that kind of thing. And when he came to work with us, his role was very unusual in the grand scheme of things. There weren't many police departments using dogs for emotional support or as like an ambassador role, but that has taken off and it has become more and more popular. And it was difficult for me to accept the title of canine handler because I didn't think I had earned it. I wasn't handling one of these traditional dogs, but the more people that we meet and the more canine organizations and handlers that we do meet, they've all embraced us 100% as one of their own. And so that's been a huge honor for me to be accepted into that community. And here we are today. So in January of 2020, we did create a partnership with the Humane Society for Greater Savannah called K9 for a Day. So as part of that partnership, about twice a month, we take shelter animals on patrol, we exercise them, socialize them, put a bunch of pictures on social media, and try to help them get adopted. So there have been 56 animals involved in that program since 2020, and that is 52 dogs and 4 cats. And Rocky was dog number 6. And leading up to me meeting Rocky, every time I brought a dog here, so the first 5 dogs, the officers were all like, "Oh, you need to tell Chief that we want to keep him. And I'm like, Chief's never going to let us do that, And Rocky came along, and when I got to the Humane Society, they said, you're going to want to keep this dog. This is your dog. He's meant to be a police officer. You're going to keep him. And I said, I don't think so. I don't think the Chief's going to go for that, but I'll see what happens. So I put Rocky in the truck. We drove down to the island. We came to the office, and I let him off the leash inside, and he immediately ran away from me. Just started running through the building. I said, "Oh no, there's a dog loose in the police department. Chief's going to kill me." So Rocky ran around the corner into our kitchen area, and all of a sudden I heard my Chief's voice, and I'm in full-blown panic mode. And I come around the corner, and the Chief is sitting at our dining room table, and Rocky is in his lap licking his face. And the Chief's just laughing and telling him hello. And he looks at me and he goes, "Let me guess, you want to adopt this dog?" And I said, "No, sir. The Humane Society wants us to adopt this dog." And he said, "Okay, tell him we want him. It's done." So I start my day by going to the gym at 4:30 in the morning, and Rocky gets very upset that he's not allowed to go. So he typically sits by the door until I get back. So when I get back, I do my whole, shower, shave, get dressed for work routine, and he's bouncing off the walls, wanting me to grab his leash to bring him in. So once we get in the car, he's happy, he's satisfied. We cruise down to the island, and one of his main roles is actually emotional support for our staff. And so that's probably the most important job that he performs and the one that he performs most often. So because of my role, I'm more of an administrative officer here at the police department. There's a lot of days that I have so much going on, I'm not even able to leave the office. And so he'll cruise around the office, visiting everybody, making sure that they're happy and that they're able to go out into the public and perform their jobs to the best of their ability. What we see in law enforcement is officers, when they tend to get burned out or when the stress levels get too high, is when they start making mistakes. And so to have Rocky here to, remind people that everything's going to be okay, get a few pets in, put a smile on their face and send them back out there is a great benefit to our organization. When we do have the ability to leave the office, there's at least once a day, like I said, we'll go out there and play fetch, or we'll jump in the patrol car and we'll cruise the island. And at the south end of the island, we have an area that people call down front that has a lot of our restaurants and souvenir stores and that type of thing. And that's one of his favorite places to go on foot patrol because that's where he's going to meet the most people. Man, there's so many moments, but I'm going to be honest with you, my favorite moments are when it's just he and I together. We spend so much time in the spotlight, and like I said, traveling to different events and things like that. And that's a blast. We absolutely love interacting with the community. And as embarrassing as this to say, our fans, because we have acquired a few along the way. But those moments where it's just he and I together, and we're both able to be ourselves, there's been a million of those, so I don't know which one's the most memorable, but they're definitely my favorite. Well, and to address that, Tabiali does have a local ordinance that prohibits dogs on the beach. And we've actually had quite a few members of the community here that have pushed for Rocky to be allowed to go out there because he's technically a police animal. And I've said absolutely not. We have to lead by example, and he's going to abide by the same rules as everybody else. And so he has never been to the beach, to my knowledge. And, if they ever change that law, we'll be the first in line. But until then, like I said, we're going to hold ourselves to the same standard. I'm going to tell you how you and I have something in common. I actually had a daughter named Stella, and she passed away at a very young age. And so in that moment when she passed away, I had been a police officer for almost a decade, and I had helped people my entire life, and I was powerless to save my own daughter. But I told myself, in order to get through that, I was going to make her life matter. I was going to make her count. And, she touched my life and everybody she met so deeply that I was going to spread that love going forward. And so I began to focus on things in my career that I felt truly made a difference. So I became a hostage negotiator. I went to sexual assault investigations training, everything I could possibly do to try to make this positive impact on people's lives. And so then in 2016, my former chief came to me and he told me that there was a problem we were having where, because we're a vacation destination, we were arresting a lot of people who had children with them. And when that happens, sometimes our officers would have to babysit those children for hours on end until somebody, a family member or DFAS could come and take custody of them. And so that took an officer off the road, and these officers were often having to buy food for the children out of their own pocket, which they happily did. But, it isn't drained. They're not making that much money to begin with. And so now they're spending money on somebody else's children and that type of thing. And he said, I need you to find a solution. So one of my very dear friends also works here. Her name's Jessica. She and I got together and we created a program called Operation Starlight. And what that program does is it uses community volunteers. So when we bring in children that are going to have to be here for an extended period of time, those volunteers come in and they sit with the children, and that keeps our officers on the road doing police work. But on top of that, we got a lot of donations from the community of like snacks, toys, blankets, coloring books, pretty much everything you could imagine that you would need to take care of a child. And it's all in a walk-in closet here at the police department. So it's at their disposal anytime we bring kids in. So it's a much better experience for the children, and it keeps the police doing police work. That program in 2018 won the Dr. Curtis McClung Award of Excellence through the Georgia Association of Chiefs of Police. And that's kind of a big deal. They only give out one of those a year. So at the time, that was the definite highlight of my career. Operation Starlight was named in honor of Stella, with the idea that Stella is Latin for star. And so to do such a great thing in her name and then to win that award on top of it was huge. And then in January of 2020, I spearheaded the effort to bring the K9 for a Day program to the police department. And having helped 56 shelter animals through that program, on top of what we've done through Operation Starlight, 21 years in law enforcement, those are the two highlights. Those are the two things that I'm most proud of. That's the goal, and on top of honoring my daughter, it's always been to improve the relationships between the community and the police. And, in the K9 for a Day program, the primary mission is to help the animals, but at the same time, it has extraordinary benefits for our community. The police officers get to do something different other than typical police work, and it makes their entire day. And then again, our police and our community are bonding over their shared love of animals, and it has really strengthened the bond between them and brought us together so much that we have a tremendous amount of support here on Tide Island that we haven't always enjoyed, but I think if you take a poll of the folks here, they'll tell you that they're pretty satisfied with what we're doing, and we appreciate that. We love it. Mankind and canines have been joined together at the hip for thousands upon thousands of years, and they have become a very integral part of our lives and our society as humans, and I don't think you can replace that. I think in some capacity they're always going to be there, and they're always going to be helping some among us perform certain jobs, and I think law enforcement is one of those. And so certainly when you have a change in laws like the legalization of marijuana, you're faced now with there's quite a few dogs that are probably going to be forced into retirement because they've been trained to smell that. And that just means that when the next generation comes up, we take that out of the equation and teach them to sniff for other things and move forward. Most of the locals here embrace dogs fully. Pretty much any of the local restaurants, especially those with outdoor seating, will welcome dogs 100%. Rocky is so much on the go. Sitting at a restaurant is not always his favorite thing, And so we do enjoy going to the park. He enjoys Forsyth Park in Savannah, and then we're both outdoorsy kind of guys. So, I enjoy hiking and things like that. I'm starting to incorporate him into that activity as well. So our goal right now is that we're working up towards climbing a mountain together. And when we do that, there's going to be plenty of pictures and everything to go.